cutie bees, and welcome back to Bumblebee.
Yes, welcome back. Hello. Today we're back with an epic part 3. We have 10 more. There's 10, then another 10. Now we're on part 3, so that's quick maths.
That's
30?
That's 30.
Today we'll be taking a look at 10 more amazing people who have survived the impossible.
It's true. And these stories are also not for the faint of heart. You've been warned, and we're also doing a collab challenge, so you'll also see us reacting to our segments for the first time. I wrote 5, Taylor wrote 5, we switch them, we react, and it's gonna be a terrifying time. I'm Rachel Fisher.
I'm Taylor McWaters.
And today we are reading for you our top 10 amazing people who survived the impossible part 3. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Number 10, BJ Penn, the wave pool. When MMA legend BJ Penn posts photos on Instagram covered in bruises, you usually wouldn't think anything of it. But last August, fans were shocked to hear his survival story after a wave pool sucked him into the engine room? What? The former 2-division UFC champion shared photos of his face, back, and head scraped up from this horrific story. The actual incident happened a year prior at an undisclosed wave pool. Whoa! We don't know. Penn recalls surfing for about an hour before the line began to get long. At that point, he swam to the wall of the pool to catch up with the owner when suddenly Penn and his surfboard were sucked under the cement wall while it was building up water for the next wave. Oh my god! Penn shared that he felt like he was going to die. Yeah, quote, "I remember feeling like I was getting sucked into a pipe, and at that moment I got scared. It ended up pushing me into a big dark cement room that fills up with water to push the next wave for the wave pool. It felt like I was in the movie Saw or Final Destination." The fighter was on antibiotics for 3 weeks after the incident and even chose not to include the name of the water park involved. He was just happy he got out alive. Who knew catching waves could be as dangerous as catching hands? Oh my god. The last line. I love wave pools!
Not anymore.
Not anymore! God! Oh my god.
Number 9, Pinikin Plains Cave. You know, it's a fun word, spelunking. I say it once a year, you know, obviously, because I don't spelunk often. What a great word though, right? Who doesn't want to spelunk around in some caves? But you know what's not so fun? A near-death experience during said splunking. If it weren't for Andrew Wright in the Panikin Caves, 15 people would have met their end. That's right, he not only survived this terrifying event, but he saved 15 others too. Andrew was the captain of 15 people excited to explore these Panikin Caves, one of the deepest cave trails in the world, but then a rare cyclonic storm started brewing above them, to which the team was entirely unaware. But the storm caused the entire middle part of the cave to collapse, leaving them trapped underground with no way back. I'm having a panic attack. My worst fear is drowning, so my toes are doing this right now while I'm reading this. All they had to hold on to was a small ledge, and water was just flooding these caves. But then in comes Andrew being a badass. Andrew dove into the pool to try and find a way to swim out, which he succeeded in doing, but still, it took the team 24 hours to be let out then to safety. An award-winning documentary called Nullarbor Dreaming was released about this event, which included footage from the event itself. Despite surviving this experience though, Andrew passed away in a helicopter crash in 2012 in New South Wales.
Number 8, the Robertson family. Back in 1971, Dougal, Lynn, and their 4 children, Anne, Douglas, Neil, and Sandy, set sail on what was planned to be a trip around the world. Aboard their 13-meter boat, the Lucette, they traveled through the Caribbean, then across the Panama Canal to the Pacific. A year and a half went by, they were en route through the Galapagos, and one of the daughters, Anne, who was 18, left the voyage in the Caribbean. Then in Panama, they took on a hitchhiker named Robin Williams. Not that one. Then west of the Galapagos Islands, a pod of killer whales hit the boat. What? Wood began to crack and the boat subsequently started to sink. They all moved to the inflatable life raft, but after 16 days of using their own breath to keep inflating it, the 6 of them were forced to move into a smaller dinghy. They somehow survived for 38 days while sailing to the center of the Pacific. All they had to drink was some water left from the Lucette, with turtles being their main diet. After 38 days, they were finally spotted by a passing Japanese fishing trawler. That's not real. That is not real.
Number 7, Chris Gursky. Chris Gursky was vacationing in Switzerland in November 2018 and decided to try something a little new, something exciting, something to tell the kids at home, but then this happened. Alright, I've never seen this, I don't know what I'm about to watch, but I'm terrified. Okay, so he's about to jump off this cliff, not... Is he just hanging on to this man? Houston, we have a problem. I like how he added that in after. He's like, and this is when I said this joke.
Yeah.
This guy just hung on the entire flight, coming in hot. Yeah, you don't say it, man. You're not even fastened to this plane. So he hung on to this man the entire time.
Yeah.
And then he drifted all the way around for minutes. This was a longer video, we had to cut it, but there was minutes where this guy was hanging on and then he just lands in the grass. They're flying too. They're going like 80 miles an hour, easy. Oh my God, and he was okay? This was the first day of our vacation in Switzerland. Well, hot start. Base jumping tomorrow, he says. Yeah, maybe just double check that you're attached to that base jumping cable. What I just saw was the pilot failing to attach Chris properly to the apparatus, resulting in him having to hold on for dear life. This tough dude held on for 3 minutes until the pilot could safely lower the craft enough so he could just slide off onto the grass. The pilot did help him out by holding his arm, but Gursky still tore his bicep because he had to hold on so tight. And then he kept hanging on after he tore this bicep. That is insane. He also broke his wrist in the fall, but he still had his life, which is thankful. Gursky commented himself, he remembered looking down and thinking, this is it. I was losing grip with my right hand. That was holding on to a strap on the pilot's right shoulder. Honestly, this is crazy. This is why I don't do anything up there. I like the ground. I like when I can, like I'm here, we're good. I'm not base jumping anytime soon, I don't think.
Number 6, Roy Sullivan. They say lightning never strikes the same place twice, but if you knew Roy Sullivan, you know that's not entirely true. Meet the man who was struck by lightning 7 times and lived to tell the tale. Roy Sullivan was born in 1912. He passed in 1983. When he was 71 years old, he actually passed away 38 years ago today. Born in Greene County, Virginia, Roy was a park ranger, Shenandoah National Park in 1936. Nicknamed the Human Lightning Conductor and appearing in the Guinness Book of World Records, Roy's first encounter was when he was just 30 years old at a fire lookout tower. He said that lightning struck, again, out of the 7 he survived, was the most painful. The lightning bolt burned a strip all the way down his leg, even blowing a hole through his shoe. Roy was also hit by lightning in 1969 while driving a truck, 1970 while gardening on an otherwise clear day, 1972 while inside a guardhouse. Inside a house? Come on. 1973 during a storm, 1976 during another storm. Stop being in storms, man. And finally in 1977 while fishing. He had a pole in his hand. How could you ignore that? This guy was like, I gotta. Roy passed away in 1983, and to this day, 2 of his ranger hats are on display at Guinness World exhibits in New York City and South Carolina.
Number 5, Tammy Ashcroft. Like me, you might be at this point in the list where you realize just how soft your life is, you know? Like people are base jumping, hanging off of planes, getting hit by lightning over and over again. I will probably never have to deal with a 50-foot wave in my entire life, but Tammy Ashcroft, who survived 41 days alone at sea in addition to losing the love of her life, did. Ashcroft and her fiance Richard Sharp were experienced sailors and were asked to deliver a 40-foot yacht to San Diego, California. Now, despite the 5,000-mile trek across the Pacific Ocean that it would require, the couple didn't think twice. Like I said, we're a little soft, other people like to explore the seas. They were confident they could do it. They set sail on the Hazana in September 1983, but in October, a Category 4 hurricane hit and Richard was swept off the boat while Tammy was below deck, knocked unconscious when she was slammed against a cabin wall. When she woke up, the cabin was filled with water at this point and Richard's safety harness was off the side of the ship. Alone, Tammy fashioned a makeshift sail, pumped the water from the cabin, and did everything she could to survive. She survived on canned fruit and salad for 41 days before a Japanese research ship found her. Ashcroft commented, "Definitely the hardest part was dealing with Richard being gone. Those were times that I didn't even want to live anymore because I didn't know how I was going to go on without him. I was never going to fall in love again." But she did years later.
Alright, number 4, Truman Duncan. The man who was cut in half by a train and still managed to call 911. I didn't expect to read that today. Back in 2006, Truman Duncan was working in the rail yards in Claiborne, Texas, and during his shift, Duncan was hitching a ride on the front of a train car that was heading towards the repair dock when all of a sudden the 38-year-old just slipped off. He tried to run backwards and catch his footing, of course leaping out of the way of the train, but his lower half still managed to get caught underneath the wheel. Oh, that's an awful image. For 75 feet, Duncan was dragged until the rail car came to a complete stop. His body was cut nearly in half, with only one leg attached by a single muscle. Oh god, I can't even read. Duncan at this point was still able to call 911, and while they were racing to the scene he made another call, but this time to talk to his family. Duncan recalls their horrific experience saying, "The pain was real severe and then it just kind of wasn't there. He wanted to make sure he could stay awake because in his mind that was the only thing he could see himself surviving." And after a double amputation, Truman was given the best of medical care from the staff at Fort Worth Hospital and luckily was able to see his family again.
Number 3, the Chilean mining accident. 10 years ago, one of the most famous rescue missions occurred in which 33 workers were rescued. Thank you for mentioning this is great. At 2 in the morning on August 5th, 2010, the San Jose gold and copper mine caved in, leaving 33 workers trapped beneath the surface at 700 meters deep, except nobody knew. They tried searching for life, but to no avail. They kept trying and trying, but on August 7th, second collapse occurred, blocking access to the ventilation shaft. Now it's not looking great at all. They sent probes down and freshly drilled holes, and it was then that a probe brought to the surface a note written by one of the men. They became known as the Lost 33. Over the course of 17 days, the men survived on rations until solid food could be passed through these drilled holes. They drilled 3 holes in total. We had Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. The rescue was expected to take until December, but in October, Plan B got through and was lined with metal tubing to prepare for evacuation. By the evening of October 12th, every last man had been removed from these tunnels, and considering how long these guys were stuck down there, besides mild infection, these guys were relatively unscathed, which blows my mind reading this. After this horrible event, these men faced some severe trauma, as many never expected they would live after this, but after 2 months, they all survived, luckily.
Number 2, Matthew Lowe. If you saw 25-year-old Matthew Lowe 2 years after this factory accident, you would have no idea what kind of pain he endured. The young worker was working on a steel processing machine when the father of one was suddenly dragged through a 5-inch gap. That's like this? What? I can't, that's like my thigh. His back broke in 2 different places, both hips were fractured, along with numerous ribs. You can tell I don't deal with this very well. The only sound he heard as he was being squeezed through the small gap was his right arm snapping. Matthew shared his experience years after, saying that as the machine dragged him through, he just relaxed almost because he knew he couldn't do anything, and he also knew that that was the end. 6 operations later and a month of resting, Matthew feels lucky to be alive. And you showed me a picture of this guy and he looks fine, like nothing. Okay, that's enough for me today.
And finally, coming in at number 1, Angela Hernandez. You know those epic car crashes in movies where the villain's vehicle tumbles down the side of the cliff for like 8 minutes and you're like, no, there's no way they could have survived that. Then they get out, they still have a cape and they wink at the camera and sets up the sequel. They are definitely dead. This is not reality at all. After 2 of those flips, you are a goner. Well, Angela Hernandez just proved every I'm back from the dead plot twist in soap operas because she survived this. In July 2018, Hernandez was driving near Big Sur down a highway in her SUV, and a small animal was crossing the road at that time, so she swerved to miss it, but she overcorrected, and her car flung off the road and tumbled down a 200 feet rocky cliff. 200 feet. She suffered a brain hemorrhage, fractured ribs, a broken collarbone, ruptured blood vessels in both eyes, a collapsed lung, and still she didn't die. That is an incredibly strong woman. She came to still in her car, and she broke the window, climbed out, swam to the beach, and then passed out. So she landed in water.
Yeah.
When she woke up again, she walked along the shore for help in bare feet, just obviously a wreck, and she used a tube from her car to collect dripping water from moss and then screamed at cars above her for help. This is amazing. Finally, after 7 days, hikers found her wrecked car and went searching for her, and they found her sleeping at this point on some rocks, and rescuers descended from a cliff and then brought her to a hospital. How?
I know.
How?
I know.
That is a crazy number 1. She is incredibly strong. That woman is incredibly strong. I'm happy you're alive. Somehow. No idea how you did that, but write books. Write 7 books and we'll read them all. And that was our top 10 list of top 10 amazing people who survived the impossible. Part 3. Holy crap.
I know. I know. I'm like, I poured coffee on my shoe and I was like, that's it. My day's done.
Yeah, I gotta go back. That's it.
So freaking soft.
That was wild.
Did you survive this list? Let us know in the comments.
And also be sure to follow us for more buzzness.
Yeah. I've been your host, Rachel Fisher.
And I've been Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you cuties next time.
Until then, stay sweet bees.
Bye.